I'm Scott Allen Miller. It is the 8th of September, 2022, and welcome to my vlog of daily life in Nicaragua. Today is Thursday, not a lot going on, and I've been waiting on doing this video because I knew there was going to be, today was going to be like pretty much just work and nothing special. So today I'm going to talk about the suicide shower. That's right, we're doing suicide showers. But first, two things. So today, Lisa and I discovered that Brooklyn Nine-Nine Season 8 was available on Netflix, at least available to us. I'm not sure what region it's available in. And so we started watching that. Very excited because it's one of our favorite shows to watch. And we've been watching it together since she was very little. And we have been waiting for the series finale to finally come out because during COVID they weren't able to keep filming. So while we watched the first 7 seasons quite a number of years ago and have seen them multiple times and love the show so much, the final 8th season is something we had no idea was even made yet. We kind of thought it might have been, but we didn't know. So it suddenly appeared and we're like, yes! And so we started binging that. So like Arrested Development, which we just finished, we are working towards finishing Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is cool. Something we've had as a show we've been watching together for a very long time. I'm racing to get today's video done between bouts of rainstorm. I already came out to record once and it started raining as I set up the tripod, so I had to run back in. My schedule's been very tight over the last few days, which are actually after this video date, just because there's been a lot going on. I mean, that's how busy works, right? And a lot of people and we have a lot of new hires at work, a lot of things going on in all the offices, and it's just very, very hectic weekend coming up. So that's where I am recording this video. It was really nice and fresh out here just before I started recording, and now it's really hot and humid. That's what happens right after the rain a lot of times. I also wanted to, before we get to the suicide shower topic, I also wanted to mention, so someone asked on the channel, are there any discotheques, any clubs, nightclubs down there in Nicaragua? So this is a good one. Nicaragua is like nightclub central, kind of like it was when we lived in Romania. Even little towns in the middle of nowhere, just like in Romania, our little village in Transylvania, Baița, Transylvania, had a discotheque in the club, and people would in the village, and people would go out in this tiny little village of just several hundred people and go dancing regularly. You'd hear it hopping, and that's where all the kids were all the time. Same thing here in Nicaragua. Every little village probably has some place you can go dancing. It is probably popular. The cities, except for Granada, have huge club districts. All of them. Even San Juan del Sur, that may sound absurd. Of course, San Juan del Sur has them, but it's a small, it's not really a city, it's a big village. But they have massive club district all along the beach. They have some clubs sprinkled throughout the village, and they have Tuanis, which is the new giant club, for all I know, the largest club in the country, out on the south side near the port of entry. It's handy because if you're coming off of a cruise ship and you want to do the Nicaraguan club scene, which is world famous, our club scene, you can do so right there without even leaving the port of entry. It's right connected to the port itself. It's inside the port barriers. So that's how big it is. When Dominica and I were in Matagalpa, the mountain city, just a couple days ago, we went out to a club at night, to El Patio, which is right in the middle of a club district. So there's like somewhere between 6 and 8 really big clubs all in one street facing each other. If you go out here in Leon, it's not quite the same, but they see each other pretty much, and they're like a couple blocks where they're all located. 23 Bar, Geckos, Geckitos, Mihunas, The Weekend, some I don't know their name, like all like really, really close, plus sprinkled all over the place. Nearly every barrio will have something, but the downtown of any city is going to have a lot. Granada has a few, but they're really few and far between. They don't really have a district unless something has popped up since I lived there. But every time I research Granada, because of it's such a tourist-based place, but not the tourist party-based place like San Juan, it seems to somehow be lacking that culture that the other cities have. Managua has nightclubs everywhere. They have multiple districts, with Los Robles being, as far as I know, the biggest one. Clubs here typically go until 3 or 4 in the morning, and that time is kind of a soft close. So if they're really busy, they could go a bit later, but that's pretty normal, especially here in Leon. 4 o'clock, very common. If I walk the dogs at 3:30 in the morning, which I do all the time, I can hear the clubs downtown from our barrio. And last night, just by chance, I was out walking. This is last night when I'm recording, not last night of the actual time of the video. Oh, it's confusing. I had walked the dogs to Sutiava at 3:45 in the morning, and I could hear the downtown clubs, probably 23 bar, pounding away through the streets. Of course, everything is really quiet at night, so you can hear them from quite a long ways away, but that's really how it is. Nightclubs are enormous here. Their style tends to be a very standard Nicaraguan style across the board. Some places like San Juan del Sur are going to have a little bit different flavor because there are a lot of extranjeros there, a lot of foreigners using the clubs, but in the rest of the country, the clubs tend to be very uniform. There is something that Nicaraguans are simply looking for, and that's what they do, right? It's going to be a place that opens early. It's not like in the US where they don't open until late. Typically, they're open sometimes all day, but at least early enough that you could go for an early dinner. A lot of them have good food, or at least reasonable food. The food typically is going to be Nicaraguan. This is actually one of the best places to get standard Nicaraguan fare because it's just a place you go out and party and go dancing. So no one's looking for something special for dinner, but everyone needs access to food. So you get kind of standard Nicaraguan fare mixed with a little bit of bar food in most cases. And so if you're looking for that, the clubs can be a pretty easy place to get pretty middle of the road food. Will rarely be something really special, but sometimes it actually is. But in general, it's acceptable. They all serve food. I've been to barely any clubs anywhere that don't have food options. It's actually a pretty big thing. A lot of people are ordering food still at like midnight. The clubs typically have tables throughout the area and no specific dance floor. They just leave space for dancing in and around your table. This is a weird thing for us coming from most other places to Nicaragua. There are certainly places that have dance floors. Some of them are very small. Gara in Managua has a couple small dance floors with a lot of table space where you could dance around your tables. Some places like Gaquitos only has space to dance around your tables, but it's normal. People are expected to dance anywhere that they can, and they simply work their way around, and they keep a lot of space between the tables so that they can do that. This is just how it is. Everywhere serves beer and seltzer and rum. You may not be able to get cocktails. That's really rare. It is possible, but very rare. The music will be extremely loud. It'll almost always be reggaeton, but you do get a mix of like American 80s pop almost everywhere, 70s rock. Like you'll hear a lot of stuff you're familiar with, but with a lot of reggaeton as well. People mostly dance pretty casually, but you will see people doing like formal salsa or bachata and different things, so that you get that stuff. But for the most part, it's pretty much just people, doing their own thing, and it's very, very risque compared to North American dancing. Like, it's hard to describe just how much more graphic dancing is here than other places. So if you're looking to go out, just be prepared that it is not a conservative dance scene in any way whatsoever. It's a different environment, and it's also very tightly packed. They tend to be very hot. They're almost never air conditioned. Hopefully you'll have fans. Normally you go dancing at night, it's already cool compared to the day, so people are used to the temperature drop. You don't need to be dressed up to go out. Very rarely do you need to get fancy. If you're in Managua, yes, you're probably going to want to be a little bit fancier. If you're out in Leon, it's a lot of college students. A lot of people are dressed pretty casually, t-shirt and shorts, maybe a button down. A lot of people are in jeans. Of course, if you're local, people want to go out in jeans and nice shoes, but it's not fancy. Especially because a lot of people are eating dinner. They'll have food, or you'll have food on your table. Sometimes you put drinks on your table. Sometimes you just dance with a beer. That's kind of how it is. Sometimes you even get a live band. Clubs are everywhere. Even out in Las Piñas, in our tiny village of 3,500 people, there are late night places that do loud music but don't do dancing, but you can always get up and dance. That's an important thing. Everywhere is a club if you make it a club, but there is an actual club in Las Piñas. You can go down to up to the north end of town. I'm sorry, it is the south end of town, all the way down to the south end of town at Pelican, and that is a late night club that goes till about 3 o'clock in the morning most nights, and is packed, very, very busy. All the clubs in most places are really busy. That's part of the thing. That is the culture. Because it's not a high overhead, there's basically never a cover to get in. I'm not sure I've ever seen a cover to get into a club. Live music, yes, but not at a club. If you're going dancing, it's gonna be just come as you are. Be prepared to be frisked. They frisk at least the men almost everywhere in larger places, not in small villages, but if you're in Managua, for sure. If you're in Leon, don't be surprised. Matagalpa, I've certainly been frisked. The expectation is that you're just going to buy a beer or whatever and dance. So it actually is typically a pretty affordable night out. If you're going out, most people are going to buy a beer or two anyway. If you're going to eat, you're probably going to eat anyway. And so they're really just looking to capture the existing eating and drinking crowd and add some music and let them dance. And almost every club has a live DJ. It's not pre-recorded. There is someone actively spinning at nearly every club. Even out on the beach, that's live DJs most nights. So that really is a big scene. All right, I'm going to do some videos about the clubs in the future. I'm going to try to get out and film some. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do this. I want to film some of the districts so you can see like what they look like and where they are in a couple major cities. I did show the ones in Matagalpa just the other day, but briefly, just flash past it, right? So you really didn't get to see anything, but that was in the middle of the district. And it's during the day, it's like, these look like some restaurants that have no people. And at night, they're bright lights and the music is beyond loud. And like you can go dancing in the streets. They're so loud. And it's a big thing. And people tend to move in and out of clubs a lot because it's warm. People step out onto the street to cool down. So when you do the clubs in one of the big cities, don't be surprised if you see people just standing around outside. There tends to be like a club spill into the street kind of thing going on. All right, our topic of the day is the suicide shower. So this is a thing. So if you watch my episodes, we talk about how there's no hot water infrastructure in Nicaragua generally. Houses are not built with that. It's a pretty modern thing to want to be able to reasonably have hot water in the majority of homes. And a lot of these structures are extremely old, often truly colonial. And so the amount of places that have centralized hot water, very few, for lots of reasons. Centralized hot water is actually pretty expensive. It requires a lot of expensive plumbing. It requires a lot of maintenance. And it requires a lot of power. So what typically is done is they find ways to do at the point of usage, heating of the water, if that's something that they need. This allows you to control it a lot better. What's done, though, because of that, is they use these things called suicide showers, and I'm sure they have another name, not what we call them. Everyone refers to them as a suicide shower. It is a giant shower head that gets put onto the shower instead of the normal shower head, and you run electrical cables into your shower, and they connect them in the shower, and they invariably connect them kind of exposed in the shower. And it's incredibly dangerous. Just looking at it, you know it's super dangerous. The devices actually do a pretty good job of heating the water in most cases, although the one we used in Matagalpa this past weekend could only take the edge off. It still felt like cold water, partially because the source water was so cold, but it just couldn't heat it up that much. Some of them get them nearly boiling hot, so be really careful. And they don't activate until there's a lot of water coming through them, so be aware that your water pressure, maybe turning it on and off, you could easily end up getting hurt a little bit if you're not careful with, I accidentally turned it off, then cranked up the temperature thinking it would make it warmer. It seemed like it wasn't doing anything, and then I turned up the pressure and suddenly it's really hot by surprise. Make sure you're not adjusting things once you're in unless you can step away from the water, which I thought it was a bird, sorry. It's really typical in Nicaraguan showers to actually have a lot of space, so being able to step out of the water when you adjust is normal. So that's not often a problem that you're going to be like trapped in a shower where it's like really hot. If it starts to get hot, you can normally jump away, but be aware you may need to or step away and adjust. So these are often safe-ish. I've never heard even a story of someone being killed by one, but it seems unlikely that they don't die regularly. People who are tall report being able to feel the electric coming through the water. It's that bad. But normally you're far enough away from it if you're shorter, and most Nicaraguans are shorter than most Americans. So typically the locals, when they're in the shower, there's quite some distance between them and the shower head, and the water, once it aerates, does not carry electricity. It's not like it's carrying millions of volts and it's going to, make its way through the mist. So you're generally really safe. But if you're quite tall and you're in the part where the water is not getting air in it, sometimes you're going to get a little bit of a buzz out of there. At least that's what a lot of people report. I've never quite had that happen to me without putting my hand up to test it, but be careful because remember, you're in water. For all intents and purposes, a suicide shower is literally taking a bath and a toaster and combining them to make a warm shower. It's a really crazy thing to do. So this is something that scares everybody. My kids don't want to take a shower in any place that has one. You can turn them off, but even when you turn them off, there's still wires coming into the shower full of electricity. So it's scary even when it's not in use. We had them here at our house sometime in the past before we had the house, and they were removed. But they left the wires. So I don't even know what's going on there. It's crazy. But in general, they are safe to use. They are everywhere. It is not just Nicaragua. Lots of countries have them. I've encountered them in Guatemala. I've encountered them in Costa Rica. I'm sure they are all throughout the world. But in this region, they are everywhere. You either have no warm water whatsoever or you have a suicide shower. The number of times I've seen warm water without a suicide shower, maybe 2 or 3, ever. It can happen, but it's rare. If you're building your own house, plan around it. Don't plan for a suicide shower. They are terrible. They're terrible to maintain. They are ugly to look at. They don't give you the shower options that you would want. Like you can't angle them. All kinds of things that you would like to be able to do in a shower you can't when you have one of these suicide showers. They're really impractical, other than the fact that the water without them can be really cold. And some people are going to jump in and give it's Nicaragua, it's hot, people don't actually want warm showers. That is horrible thing to say. It's honestly not very appropriate. There are places, Chinandega, Leon, where the water is reasonably warm from the ground, sometimes actually warm from the ground, and the air is almost always so warm that yes, the majority of time, nearly always in the hottest cities, yes, you don't actually want hot water or heated water. The groundwater is a great temperature, and you'd maybe like 1 or 2 degrees warmer. That's it. You like that it's cool. You like that it's cooling you down. You don't need hotter water. However, it would still be nice to have warm water to help get the soap out of your hair, to make washing dishes easier. It's ridiculous. See my episode about hot water. It is important to have hot water. The statement that nobody wants it is completely untrue. It's like air conditioning. Yes, lots of people can live without it, but people will point out if the electricity was cheap enough and the air conditioners were affordable enough, most people would want air conditioning, and that is also true. It is true. Lots of us are perfectly happy with the cold water for the majority of the time, and most of us are happy without air conditioning the majority of the time, but that doesn't mean you don't want it sometimes. And when you get outside of these hottest cities, when you get into a Managua, you start to get to where having water that's warmed up becomes more and more important. The idea that the air temperature is always warm and you always want to cool down with a shower is gone by the time you get to Managua. The majority of the time it's warm enough that you want to cool down, but only the majority. There are lots of times that the groundwater is going to be too cold. You start to get to the outskirts of Managua once you've hit El Crucero, Titiambra, Jinotepe. Those places want warmed water. They're enough cooler that they really want warm water. Doesn't have to be hot water, but they don't want cold groundwater. And if you go to any of the mountain cities, trying to use the shower without a suicide heater or some other type is literally painful. It is so cold. Trying to say that people want it to be cold when the air temperature is 64 degrees, you do not want 58-degree water coming out of the pipe. You are already shivering. Having this blast of cold water that you have to stand in to clean off it's actual pain. And it doesn't matter how long you've lived here, it is still painful. It's so cold. And we really get this in one breath. We'll tell people, oh, you get so used to the heat because you're in it every day. And then in the next breath, you can handle ice cold water blasting out in cold air temperatures without air conditioning because you're used to it. It doesn't work that way. That's just like in the United States. Our summers are hot, our winters are cold. You can't get used to either. The same thing happens here. You can't be this hot all day long and be used to cold water. The two conflict. Yes, people put up with it because they have to in a lot of cases, but nobody wants to go through that scenario. It hurts, and it does not clean you well because water that is that cold does a bad job of dissolving dirt on you and getting soap off. You want warmer water for that. And coming from the United States, we get hotter than Nicaragua does. I lived in places like New York and Texas. Both get hotter than here. They don't stay as hot, but they get hotter. And even in those places, even on 100+ degree days in Texas, you still want warm water when you shower. It's just how we are, right? It's a comfort thing. You could live without it. If you took a cold shower in those temperatures, you'd be like, well, good time for it to be cold, but you'd prefer if it wasn't cold. The same thing here. So suicide showers are very popular for people who want to be able to take the edge off, who want that option, but don't want to invest in a big infrastructure, and that is the majority of people. So you find a lot of them, but there's no getting around the fact that they are crazy dangerous. And I got some video of this one from our hotel, and I want to show this because, first of all, it's just crazy seeing a suicide shower and being like, this is a real thing. But I also got some footage, and here you can see the suicide shower, and on the right, this is mist coming off of the shower head, but if you look at the wires, you actually get smoke. It looks different coming off of the wires. As it heated up, it would consistently smoke. I knew to take this video because I had already taken a shower previously and noticed it smoking. I was like, this is really dangerous. It is certainly should not smoke in the shower while you're using it. That's how risky these things are. But again, I've never heard of someone actually having a problem. I also want to say thank you so much to the people who have been buying me a coffee. I can't believe how much people are doing that. I mean, it's not like I'm making a fortune here, but I had no idea people would start actually sending me coffees. It's so amazing. Thank you so much. It's really meaningful to me how much people have made an effort to show how much they support the channel and appreciate what we're doing here. It means a lot to me. Trust me. So thank you so much to everyone who did that. I'm going to do my best to have responded to everybody that has done so by the time this post. If you want to support me, you can look at the links below. You can buy me a coffee. That is a link. It's go to buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller, and you can make a donation to the show. That's what that is. When I say buy me a coffee, that's what that means. Please remember to like and subscribe. It means so much. Share with your friends. Leave your comments below. Get that discussion going. Have you seen suicide showers? Have you ever seen these in the States? I want to know because I don't think they're legal. I've never seen one. I can't imagine how it would pass code. Hot water, what are your experiences here? And nightclubs, I want to know where you guys like to go here in Nicaragua or elsewhere, but here in Nicaragua, definitely, because I've got some nightclubs that I really like. I will do recommendations at some point, like my picks in different cities. I need to get out and try more and more places, but I have several cities that I have ones I really like, and I want to get some video and more information on that and do a whole episode just about nightclubs when we can do that. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. I will see you all tomorrow.